Always too young for the tent shows at the fair. My rotten kid, the son one, once said to me, "Going to the fair is my favorite thing to do. It's even better than Christmas Day." In fact, he comes by it honestly, on account of if there's any single person in town who loved going to the fair more than me back in the day, well, I would challenge him or her to a hearty round on the 5-cent diggers. We'd soon see who'd get the ultimate prize. That stack of 5 nickels wrapped in cellophane. Yeah, well, he or she would, of course, but I never could snag that slippery stack with those remote-control jaws. But that's beside the point. As I may have mentioned several hundred times, I grew up in Parkvale, within spitting distance of the Red Deer Fair, when it was all crammed into the old arena parking lot. A glorious combination of gravel and mud and sounds and lights and hustle and bustle, unique to those July days when the fair comes to town. And way back when they had things like grandstands and grandstand shows and big tents on the midway that promised the bizarre, the weird, the wacky wonders of the world. And also the girly shows. When you were a 10 or 12-year-old boy back in the fair with your buddies in those days, and computers were still just a twinkle in Bill Gates' eye, well, you did tend to linger longer in front of the mysterious, irresistible wonders of the world tent and spend an awful lot of time surreptitiously serpentining in and out of the crowd in front of the girly tent, trying not to be noticed by anyone you happen to know, which in those days was everybody. There were 2 reasons why a boy might spend a surprising amount of time, just casually strolling by and absently hanging around those particular venues at the busy fair. One, you couldn't get into either tent unless you were a certain age, that age being exactly 1 year older than you presently happen to be. This, of course, made the attraction even more, well, attractive. And B, once every half hour or so, the guy on the microphone on the small stage in front of the tent with the lurid paintings of what you might discover inside would come out and launch into a spiel a mile a minute. But the thing is, he would also summon from inside the dark and dangerous bowels of the shadowy tent 1 or 2 of the living or long-dead mysteries that you would see if you ponied up your 50 cents, which was pretty pricey, to slip inside the tent into the forbidden world. At the faded yellow canvas marquee, the bearded lady might come out and parade around on the stage, whilst the guy on the mic barked away about this freak of nature that looked suspiciously like a man with long hair and a beard and an ugly dress. Or the barker might hold up a big glass jar with a gray lump of goo floating around in there. "Einstein's brain!" he would proclaim to the assembled masses. "Come in and see, so close you can almost touch it. Einstein's brain, a perfectly preserved wonder of the world. Come one, come all, to the inside and see the incredible, unbelievable, amazing wonders of the universe." And unlike that, of course, subtlety was nowhere to be found. Of course, the perfectly preserved brain of Einstein was either the random entrails of some unfortunate farm animal, probably obtained illegally from some abattoir somewhere, or it was the brain of Harold Einstein, a used car salesman who died happily of old age 10 years before in some place like Indiana or Iowa. The carny at the ticket booth at the entrance to the tent wasn't all that picky if you had the 50 cents in your hand, except when it came to yours truly. Yeah, I either looked too young or too desperate, or my jug-handle ears were glowing too red like they do when I get nervous. But whatever it was, the ticket carny wouldn't even flinch. "Beat it, kid," he'd grunt at me. And then he'd take the money from Eugene Biffert, behind me in the lineup, a kid who was 1 grade below me and at least 1 year younger. It was even worse at the girly tent. In the corner, back by the big Ferris wheel and the salt and pepper shaker. I was never sure what exactly went on in there. And when a few very bored and surprisingly unattractive ladies would parade out on the stage in front of the tent for a brief glimpse from the gathering crowd, the barker would strongly suggest that these ladies would be encumbered by significantly less clothing once you were inside the tent. There was always a tantalizing theory amongst our group of rapscallion rabble-rousers that there was a place you could sneak in under the tent at the back, or at the very least you could peek through a hole in the canvas. But not even Eugene Bifford could ever confirm it. And maybe that's just as well. Some things are better left to the imagination. And besides, the fair still has the Little Red Barn petting zoo, and thank goodness they still let me into that one. This is from a wonderful book called I Seem to Have Misplaced My Marbles, Harley Hay.